sharpened my senses. It did not destroy them. And I have heard all things in heaven and on the earth. I heard many things in hell. Am I mad? See how calmly I tell the whole story.
It's impossible to say how the idea first entered my brain. It haunted me night and day. I loved the old man. He had never wronged me. For his gold I had no desire. I think it was his eye. Yes. One of his eyes resembled that of a vulture. A pale blue eye. Whenever it looked at me, my blood ran cold. And very gradually I made up my mind to take the life of the old man and rid myself of the eye forever. You think I'm mad? Madmen know nothing. You should have seen how wisely I went about it, how cautiously. I was never kinder to the old man than during the whole week before I killed him. Every night, about midnight, I turned the latch of his door and opened it very gently. I made sure that no light shone from my lantern. I moved it slowly, very slowly, so not to disturb the old man's sleep.
Would a madman have been so wise?
I shone the lantern cautiously so that a single beam fell on the vulture eye. I did this for 7 long nights. Every night, just at midnight.
I found the eye was always closed, and so it was impossible to do the work. For it was not the old man I hated, but his evil eye.
Every morning I went into his chamber and asked how he had passed the night. So you see, he would never suspect that every night at 12, I looked in on him while he slept. On the 8th night, I was more than careful opening the door.
To think that there I was, opening the door, little by little, and he not even dreaming of my secret deeds and thoughts. I chuckled at the idea.
Perhaps he heard me. He moved on the bed suddenly, as if startled. My thumb slipped on the lantern, and the old man sprang up in bed, crying out, "Who's there?" I kept still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I didn't move, not a muscle. Then I heard a slight groan, and I knew it was the groan of mortal terror.
I knew the sound well. I knew what the old man felt and pitied him. I knew that he'd been lying awake ever since the first slight sound. His fears had been growing on him. He had been saying to himself, it's nothing but the wind in the chimney. It's only a mouse crossing the floor. But it was death approaching him.
When I had waited a very long time without hearing him lie down, I shone the lantern on him, and it fell upon that vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open, and I grew furious.
There came to my ears a low, dull sound, the sound a clock makes all wrapped up in cotton. I knew that sound. It was the beating of the old man's heart. It increased my fury.
I held the lantern motionless. The hellish tattoo of the heart increased. It grew quicker and quicker, louder and louder. And at that dead hour of the night, that strange noise excited me to uncontrollable terror. The beating grew louder, louder. I thought the heart must burst. The old man's hour had come. I leaped into the room. He shrieked once, only once. I dragged him to the floor. The deed was done. But for many moments, the heart beat on with a muffled sound. It stopped. The old man was dead. He was stone dead. His eye would trouble me no more.
If you still think me mad, you'll think so no longer when I describe the wise precautions I took to conceal the body.
I dismembered the corpse, the head, the arms, the legs. I took up 3 planks from the flooring of the chamber and put the body inside the floor. Then I replaced the board so cleverly that no human eye, not even his, could have detected anything wrong. It was 4 in the morning when I was finished, still as dark as midnight. There came knocking on the street door. I opened the door. What had I to fear? 3 men entered. Police officers. A shriek had been heard by a neighbour during the night. I smiled. What had I to fear? I made them welcome. The shriek, I said, was my own in a dream. The old man was gone to the country, and I took them all over the house to search well. I took them to the old man's chamber. I showed them his gold and treasure, all secure. And I brought chairs into the room and asked them to rest. They were satisfied. My manner had convinced them. They sat, and I answered questions.
I thought I heard a ringing in my ears, and I wished them gone. The ringing became more distinct. It became very definite. And then I found the noise was not inside my ears. I talked to the police, but the sound increased. There was a low, dull, quick sound. And yet the officers didn't hear it. I talked more quickly, but the noise increased. Why wouldn't they go? I paced the floor with heavy steps, but the noise increased. Oh, God, what could I do? I raved, I swore, I grated the chair on the floor, but the sound increased. It grew louder, louder, and still the police chatted pleasantly. Was it possible they hadn't heard? No. No. They heard. They suspected. They knew. I had to scream or die. The sound was louder, louder, louder. I admit the deed. Turn up the planks here. Here it is. The beating of his hideous heart.